Right.
All right. Hi, Kate, you can hear us, yes?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Mark.
And we can hear you. Hi.
I also have my colleague Dan Wagner, who's going to be presenting as well as in the participants. If you could elevate him when you have a moment.
Here we go.
Thanks.
And we're gonna.
So you sign in over there? Thanks. This one over here, next to Mark.
So I'm gonna keep my.
So now, somewhere on there, you have a speaker. You need to mute your speaker as well. No, it's probably gonna be along here somewhere.
Yeah, get rid of all your volume, yep.
Yep. There you go. Because that's what creates the reverb. Okay.
I learned something new.
Okay.
Oh, and
hang on
I
one
don't want
Or I'm gonna make
it.
make a few co-hosts and get or something. And Janet, here you are. Don't move.
I only have two.
Hey,
Good, we have a quorum.
and okay.
I only have two attendees.
Okay.
It's fine, but I know what I'm supposed to do here. Promote to panelists.
You're still on the board, huh?
I am chairing this meeting, actually. Shirley, I don't know if you guys saw the note, but Shirley Ballard not able to join us.
But the good news is she banged herself up, but she didn't break it. Yeah.
Good, good, okay. So it's as well.
Janet,
Hi.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just doing this because I'm going away and I don't want to get sick.
Oh,
Well, I appreciate it. But you don't, we're not, I'm not gonna get sick.
I don't want to get sick, but you know,
So we are live now, Mark,
Yes, you
so
are.
we can call the meeting to order.
Sure can.
All right, great. So, hi, everyone. I am Daniel Miller, still serving as the Vice Chair of Traffic and Transportation. Unfortunately, Shirley is unable to join us today, and I will be chairing the meeting. Generally, the rules are that we allow the presentation to happen, and then committee members are the first to ask questions, and it goes on to full board members, and then we open up questions to the public. The first item on our agenda tonight is a presentation by the New York City Department of Transportation of plans for bike lanes on Gansevoort, 10th Avenue to Greenwich Street, Hudson Street to West 13th Street, and Horatio Street, West Street to Hudson Street. And presenting will be Kate Scherer of the DOT, as well as Dan Wagner. And if you guys can unmute yourselves, you can introduce yourselves, and are you able to share your document, or do you need us to do that for you? Before we do that, let's go around the table, and everyone on the committee here can introduce themselves. I'm sorry, I skipped that. I know it's beautiful outside, and I was kind of rushing, but go ahead. We'll start with
I see my
Janet. Why don't we go around?
Janet Lift, public, member.
I, Amy Brana, just a regular member. Lois Schreckle, full board member. Stella Fitzgerald, also full board member.
Rocio Sands, full board member.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, so we will begin. We also have two members of our public members, George and Joseph. I don't know if you guys want to say hello. There you go. You got waving from George and Joseph. We can't see you, but I'm sure you're waving in the darkness there. So moving on, once again, we're going to hear a presentation from the New York City Department of Transportation. And Kate and Dan, why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, sure. Dan, are you able to pull up the presentation and kick us off?
I'm sure Dan can hear
Yes.
us.
Hey, Dan, are you able to hear us? You're muted, but It doesn't seem like you can hear us. Okay. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna see if I can get him on the phone. One moment, please. Thanks.
But you may need to go up front here and allow them to share the presentation possibly. But if not, I can, your co-host now on your computer, you'll see it says allow anyone to share. You do it on the share screen. See if that is,
No, anyone to share something. Oh, multiple panels can share simultaneously is quick.
Yeah, just for the members of the public waiting to hear, we're just waiting for Dan to get his audio working. I don't think he hears us yet, but Kate, yes, we all know we can hear Kate. Just give us a couple of minutes as Dan sets up.
I just saw her email. Unmuted.
Okay, Dan, can you hear us?
Hi, sorry, I didn't realize my audio was out. Anyway, I'm here now.
Awesome. Are you able to share your screen so we can see the presentation as you present it?
I am, let me try it. I'm so embarrassed. I didn't even realize you guys were trying to get a hold of me. Just thought we were all being really quiet. All right. It looks like I can share. How's that? You see my title screen?
We can. Perfect, Dan. Thanks so much.
All right. Well then, do you want me to get going?
I think we're all ready for you.
Okay. Sorry, I missed everything because I didn't know my audio was off. All right. Well, anyway, hello, welcome. My name is Dan Wagner, and I am with the Public Realm Unit of NYC DOT, and I'm here today to give you a quick presentation on the Gansevoort and Horatio Street proposal for bike lanes to complete the bicycle network in West Village and Greenwich Village. So let's move on. The Public Realm Unit is a newly formed unit that DOT has. It's new as of late last year, and one of our key elements is that we are going to continue to work in an area, and there's a loop. We work in a space, it generates new interest in the space. We want to enhance that space, even more. We move along, and eventually it leads to more planning, more study, which leads to more, etc. It's a big loop. Today we are mostly going to be talking about, we're over in the crossings and intersections and curb strategies section today. And the presentation itself, or the location itself, I mean, is about the Gansevoort area. And I think but I want to talk about, we've been here for a while. 2008, we did a SIP to sort of reconfigure the larger space that is outside the Gansevoort Hotel. And then in 2019, we completed the capital project. This is all the same unit that I was talking about, Public Realm Unit. And 2021, there was the Gansevoort reconstruction, little space over there. And then even last year, the Gansevoort Landing Plaza, which is on 10th Avenue, just south of the Whitney. We've been working here for a while, and we want to keep working. So the project today, the proposal today, is about Gansevoort Street between 13th and Hudson. Then we're going to skip a block, and then we're going to continue on Gansevoort Street again, heading west from Greenwich Street over to 10th Avenue, and then Horatio Street from 10th Avenue back all the way to Hudson Street, with a little bit on 10th Avenue as well. This is in your district, but this is also in the Gansevoort Market Historic District, and it's in the Greenwich Village Historic District. And the key elements of this project's proposal is that it is to build out the bicycle network. So we included on this map some green lines indicating where there is bicycle network facilities, and those red lines will, when we're done, will hopefully be more green lines. This map is going to talk about this very specifics because there's a lot going on in this area, and it's kind of hard to understand what every block is if you don't know it like the back of your hand. So I'm going to take you through it. I'm going to start on the 13th and Gansevoort. And for a little bit, there is what we would call a conventional bike lane markings that only last on the asphalt until the asphalt ends, and then it becomes a Belgian block street that's really difficult to ride your bicycle along. If you're a cyclist, you'll know how sort of unhappy you are when you're cycling on those granite blocks. Just so many bumps. And then once you get to Hudson Street, there is a granite paver completed bike lane that is already there. That was completed by one of those earlier capital projects I was mentioning. And then at Greenwich Street, that granite paver bike lane disappears. So then we go back to the same condition we had in the first block. And then once you get down to Washington Street, the Belgian blocks disappear and it becomes an asphalt conventional bike lane. Well, it's actually supposed to be. It's a proposed conventional bike lane. For various reasons, it was never installed. And then going down to Horatio Street, heading east from 10th Avenue, it's asphalt condition with proposed bike lane, and that's never been installed. And then we have another one of those Belgian block streets that makes bicycling really difficult. From there on once you cross Hudson Street, there is now a shared bike lane facility, and then you can continue east and connect into the network. So due to all of those varying materials, that's what we're going to talk about. So these are the same concepts of what we were talking about. We have a little key at the top right. I want to show it to you so that way you can sort of like follow along. But on Gansevoort Street, we have the far west end, we have the asphalt. In the middle, we have the Belgian blocks. And in the middle, and then on the east side, we have the Belgian blocks as well. And those Belgian blocks, again, are difficult to bicycle along. Moving on to the Horatio Street, it's similar. There's some asphalt roadbed on the western two blocks, and then on the easternmost one of the 3-block stretch, it is existing Belgian block road. I also want to point out a small little spot you can see it's on 10th Avenue, I guess, between Jane and Horatio. There is this circular space with some benches that connects to a crosswalk across Route 9A and also connects north if you want to go north or south. And then there's this gap in the fencing. So that's really going to be what we're going to get to. So why are we here today? You want to know about the proposal. So I'm going to take you right through it. The proposal is to install bicycle lanes. And on the blocks that are cobble, we're proposing to install granite slabs, granite bike lanes, similar to what already exists. So essentially, we're just going to copy or emulate what exists on the existing completed block, and we're proposing it on the blocks that don't have it. On the blocks that are asphalt, we're proposing a conventional 5-foot bicycle lane, like you see probably in many places throughout New York City. And it's pretty straightforward. No parking laws, nothing like that. We are proposing to build concrete bike ramp in that little circular space, so that way cyclists who want to connect from the west side, the Greenway, they can cross the intersection where there's a light and cross over 9A, and then they can navigate through this little circular space. We just want to build a smooth ramp down so that way they can connect onto 10th Avenue, head north, and then join up where Horatio starts and heads east. The granite bike lanes materials, this is what exists today. We are proposing to do it again. It seems to be holding up. There are granite pavers, and then there's a header, a little space, and then another header, sort of delineating the space a little better. It's on both sides of the granite paver. Here's a typical. We're actually going to make it a little wider. Our materials that we have are 3 feet wide. That one is 2 feet 6 inches. Don't think you'll notice the difference, but I think every bicyclist who's using it will appreciate it. And then a conventional asphalt bike lane, thermoplastic markings. People know how to use those. And this is an example of what our crew has already completed. Myself in this role, and then the crew who will be out there hand building it. Now you'll notice that this typology is slightly different. This one has a granite header on both sides. We're not proposing to do that here because we wanted to meet the sort of condition of the existing that's already built there, and that is the whole proposal. So this, as you know, it improves connectivity and it provides continuity of material in the district. It's already been taken to landmarks, and that is the proposal. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. There we go. I pressed the wrong button there. Thanks very much for the presentation. Typically what we do is we open up questions for committee members first. So anyone on the committee have any questions to ask Dan? We have a few, so go ahead.
Oh, hi, mine will be fast. Can you hear me okay? Cause I have my mask on. I guess question for you, that 10th Avenue connection where you're putting the bike ramp up to that little park area, so the bikes can go across the West Side Highway?
Yeah.
Is that a park used by pedestrians, or is that a throughway for things on wheels?
In the proposal?
No,
I mean,
today, how is that? It looks like it's a park area, or was it designed to be a throughway for things on wheel? I mean, are there gonna be pedestrians there is what I'm saying to you, asking you.
yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a pedestrian space now, and the proposal is to call it what we call a shared space, namely that we understand that pedestrians are there and we understand that bicycles are there. I would not expect you to find that there is going to be a high volume of, constant never-ending cyclists. I think it'll mostly be the occasional cyclist who's trying to traverse from the Greenway, east into the network. There are a handful of opportunities for cyclists to make this routing, and so this is really like a hyper-local access point. So I don't expect high volumes of bicyclists, but there will definitely be that sharing of space.
I just walking around New York City, I don't find shared pedestrian bike spaces very pedestrian friendly. I mean, do you have in your budget to take that space and redesign it so you have a dedicated bike lane that it's clearly marked out for bikes, and then you have a dedicated, an area that is for the pedestrian, and then you can have, so that there just isn't the opportunity for any kind of injuries or issues.
I understand what you're saying. This project is being funded through what we call our SIP program, which is in-house, an in-house budget that is low cost and supposedly quick. And what you're talking about is sort of like more of a capital redesign of that space. So in the work that this work falls into one bucket of budget where we can do small little things like build ramps, and coincidentally we can build this bike lane inside Belgian blocks, but we can't redesign sort of like a larger park space that goes into a much larger budget bucket.
Yeah, I would just say that is an issue I have, is now taking a pedestrian space and turning it into a shared space with things on two wheels. But I hear what you're saying, and that's all I had to say.
Yeah, I've just asked the question, is there a possibility for markings so that you could separate pedestrians?
There is the possibility, a couple of challenges with that in that, oh, now I'm seeing myself. Somebody's sharing your screen.
There's enough space.
I mean, I take that occasionally. It's not an organic place to cross the highway. You have to kind of find it by accident because it's a dead end street.
Yeah.
Saying.
Can you put up the map for us, Dan, one more time in the presentation, just so we can see where the park connects to the west and the crossing there? We see where it goes to the east.
That's not the one I meant to share. Sorry. Hold on. Stop sharing. It's like it's 2020 again. All right. It's been so long, we don't use Zoom anymore. Where did it go?
Gonna stay on the Zoom?
I guess the question I have, is there a pedestrian crossing on the other side of that little parklet there?
I'm gonna watch for just a few more
There-
minutes.
right.
Yeah. Pedestrian, that's why he's.
So there is a place for cycles to cross West Street. And then is there an easy ramp on the west side of that park?
I think I'm gonna go out to the liquor store, buy a few bottles or.
Gonna turn on
Sure.
Jordan?
Enjoy the liquor. It is like it's 2020. Okay, so here's which map did you want? You want this map?
He's muted, he's okay, he's muted.
Yes, I guess, yeah, and there's a crossing right there. You're just right there, and there's a crosswalk right there. So bikes would come across there. There's a ramp that would go into the parklet, and the ramp would come out of the parklet. Is that correct?
Yeah, so all we're building is all we're proposing to build, and we don't have to do this if you don't support it. We're proposing to build a ramp here where the cursor, where my little hand is, which allows, because everybody can already make it up. And what we don't want to do is encourage bicyclists to go north into that space. I can pull up a better view if you bear with me while you watch things load. I don't know if you're actually seeing this, but give me a second, it's just loading.
Yeah, no, we're not saying that we go into executive, we talk about it. We're just bringing up a point that we might be discussing in executive and just trying to get all the information from you before, we would
Yeah,
actually.
that's fair. Here, let me show you something. This will help like with your conversation. All right, well, let me stop share and then reshare. So this is an aerial view. I think you're seeing an aerial view. Please confirm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is the greenway on the left side. And then this is the existing crossing. And this is all like very bicycleable. And there is a ramp here. And this is the circle we're talking about. And there is a pedestrian path that heads north-south between, Jane and Horatio. And one of the points of the ramp here is so that way cyclists are more inclined to go straight, and therefore they're interacting with the pedestrians at a minimal amount. If we don't build it here, I fear that bicyclists will head north on this very narrow path and then try and hop the curb where these bollards are.
Good
I
point.
can show you a street view if you want, but the idea being that the ramp will help.
Dan, I think we get it, because really what you're doing is you're shortening the amount of exposure pedestrians have to cyclists, and that was, I think, the concern.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So,
Great, thank you for sharing that
thank
with
you,
us.
Dan. Janet,
Just a term, what is a shared bike lane? You said there was one piece of it that was a shared bike lane.
Yeah, that's where we use, you know what, I'll just show you, since we're sharing screens and everything, why don't I just show you? It looks like this.
So those are just sharrows, basically, is that what?
Yeah, I just
Sharing,
wanted to, it's the sharrows.
okay,
I didn't know if you knew what the phrase was.
okay.
Lois.
Yes, is there any for the evening and night lighting? And any signage for bike riders and pedestrians to see it? That there will be this ramp?
Oh, I don't know, but I will reach out to my lighting division and make sure that they send an inspector to confirm that it is well lit when we're done.
It's-
Is there any other place where you could put that ramp? It really disturbs me that it's really at a place where you have benches where people are gonna be sitting down and enjoying the outdoors. Then you have these bicycles, which sometimes tend to go real fast. And we're gonna have accidents. We're gonna have people
yeah.
run over by bicycles.
I understand. The options that is the option that we feel is the sort of least invasive of, like, if we don't build it, I believe that bicyclists will be there anyway. And again, like I don't know that they'll navigate through the space quickly, or they'll head north or south. So that's the idea. It's trying to take it.
Well, the problem is that once someone gets injured, it's too late.
It's,
So this is about
already-
planning in advance, not waiting for an accident to happen. Of course, maybe an accident never happens, but you have to make it safe so people can sit there, and the shared space could be dangerous. So although this is the least of the resistance of of what you're planning, maybe you have to go back in the box and think about a better solution than what you're proposing.
We can put up signage that says things like, share the space. But if we don't put up anything there, like we can just build the bicycle lanes, starting at Horatio at 10th Avenue. But we, the whole point of a bicycle lane is to facilitate the bicyclists to be able to navigate through our city. So we wanted to provide connections between bicycle facilities.
Like a cut through.
Or see, we can
So-
talk about more details. Just a question. If there is a ramp there, would you be willing to put signs that say, like dismount your bike and walk across the park area? They're not.
That's not really a treatment that the city does. That's something that you'll see in places like the MTA. It's sort of a different jurisdiction. But I can bring that back to our bicycle unit and see what they say.
Okay, I know that, for example, like in Washington Square Park, they put up signs sometimes that say like, no, you have to get off your skateboard or something. So, and not that people follow that, but it could.
Problem or left and
Yeah.
right.
Parks,
Still, I mean, to me, that would be better than nothing.
right? That is a sign that Parks utilizes, so we can talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
anyone else in the committee have a question? I have a couple of questions myself. What is the expected lifespan of Granite Path? Like, how long do you expect it to hold up?
That is a good question. That has been a hot topic of conversation this week. So I have I can give you all of the details. I'm not sure if it's too detailed, but essentially the one that I showed you at the end of the presentation is in Dumbo. That was constructed in 2020, 2021, and it is in great shape. We sent an inspector this weekend, and it is holding up. That said, some of the work in your district has been failing, and we are not pleased about that, and we are continuing to work towards improving our construction techniques so that way it lasts longer. I would imagine it probably if everything goes right, I would imagine it would last 20 to 50 years, but I don't, I would ask that you don't quote me on that number because I haven't actually talked to my engineers about it.
Which ones are failing? Do you know in your district that you could?
Yeah, 14th and Washington, which you'll see the DOT crews are out there currently trying to repair them for the third time, which we're not just going back and just doing it again. We're going back in and being like, why did this fail? Let's try and excavate everything by hand to slowly take a look at it and try and figure out what went wrong. And we're not intending to build this. We're not intending to construct this until we have actual answers for that. So
Yeah, and that's actually pretty heavy truck area too. I imagine that takes a bit of wear and tear where meatpacking is more pedestrian friendly. So I'd imagine this is probably a better place. I did want to mention that we've written resolutions on Granite Paths in the past, asking for Granite Paths on Morton Street, for instance, several times in several resolutions, because we have it's a wide sidewalk there, and we have east and west bicycle traffic using our sidewalks, and we have an older generation of folks living on the north side. Actually, a community board member, Katie Bardinaro, brings it to our attention pretty much every meeting, and she wrote a letter to us and wanted to make sure that still stays on your calendar, that Morton Street, which is a Belgian block street, that gets consideration as well. I think it's been 5 years since we wrote the resolution as well. I know Clarkson is under construction. That was our very first resolution on a Granite Path. It's also going to be a heavily trafficked street because that's the only place you can go east off of Hudson River Park Greenway, right north of Google there. And we understand that it's under construction now, but we're hoping that you do take a look at that. It's very meaningful to our residents because it's unsafe. These areas get a lot of deliveries, and there really isn't any ability for cyclists, or they don't think they have the ability, even though I live on that block. The Belgian blocks are smooth, but and there are areas that are much worse in the city that really could use granite paths. So historically, the community board and traffic and transportation committee has always supported granite paths wherever you can make it happen. The ramp is a different story, but you know, we do want you to continue looking at Morton first and foremost, Clarkson, Leroy will also be writing a resolution, I believe, in the future. Shirley mentioned that I should bring that up as well.
Yeah, thank you for all that. We'll take it back and take a look at it. The reason we're looking at these specific locations rather than those is because this was actually supposed to be built in some of that capital work that was from 2012, 2014, 2008, and it's never been completed. So we're trying to stay true to our word from back then and finish what we started. So that's why we're here first.
I see. Does anybody else in the committee have any follow-ups? No? Pete Davies has a question. If we could elevate, and so is Zach Weinstein has a question too, but we'll go with Pete first. Pete, yeah, there you go.
So I am a little confused because it's my understanding that bicycles are not allowed to ride in a crosswalk. But this whole setup seems to encourage riding from the park in the crosswalk across West Side Highway and then into that little parklet. So I think if that's the case, that seems to be encouraging people to ride incorrectly.
The only way to get to.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The couple of things. One is that we're going to work with the state. If the ramp is approved, we will work with the state on reconfiguring or just taking a look at, are there options to create legal crossings through that crosswalk, whether it's through signage or through markings or something to that effect. It's not included in my presentation because it's going to be on a different timeline. But that would be something that we consider.
Okay,
Trying to
and also
legalize.
The little parklet, that is a sidewalk within the park, right? It's illegal to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk. So
Unless that sidewalk has been designated as legal. We can use what we call bike stamps. They're just these little thermoplastic markings that go on top of the pavers there, and or signage that says, bicycles traverse this space. So it becomes legal.
okay, I just wanted to back up what Amy mentioned earlier, that I think you're creating a conflict that is really is not good for pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Let's see, we had another hand up. Zach, yes.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, my name's Zach Weinstein. I live at 92 Horatio Street, which is right at Horatio and Washington Street. I'm a bicyclist and I bike on these streets practically every day. I just want to say I think this is an excellent plan. I support it as presented very strongly. I'd like to address this curb cut issue because I think that curb cut's important. Right now, as Mr. Wagner said, you have bicyclists who are trying to get out of the west side, the west side esplanade, getting, going east into the city. They go through this little parklet, and particularly those who don't know better, such as tourists on Citi Bikes, they go north through the little parklet on this narrow pedestrian sidewalk. And it's a really bad thing because there's no separation between the bikes and the pedestrians, and it's confusing, and people are having to go very slowly, and it's not good. The whole point of the curb cut is to get the bicyclists away from the pedestrians as quickly as possible. They can simply go through this little roundabout, get onto the street, and not have to go onto these narrow the narrow pedestrian walks. In terms of this parklet, this section of the parklet is really, it's more of a crosswalk than anything else. There are benches there, but it's immediately next to the West Side Highway. There is a huge amount of traffic noise. It's not a particularly pleasant place to sit, and it's not a place where people generally hang out. You basically have pedestrians waiting to cross West Street to the park and bicyclists waiting to cross West Street into the park. And providing an easy way for the bicyclists to get out and get away from the pedestrians, I think it's a win-win for everybody. Having said all that, I do have one question. The section of Horatio Street between Greenwich and Hudson Street, which is the small section of Horatio that still has the old Belgian blocks, the roadbed is in terrible condition. It's very, very wavy. So it's very rough traveling, not merely because it's cobblestone, but because there are potholes and the whole pavement just dips and rises. I'm a little concerned that if you put the granite pavers in there, that the pavers will necessarily be very uneven unless some serious work is done on the roadbed. And I was curious if DOT has sort of actually looked at that particular block and has a plan for somehow installing the pavers in a reasonably smooth manner so that they'll be rideable and also that they'll be properly supported underneath and less prone to cracking. But again, thank you very much. I think it's a great plan.
Thank you for your support. I can't answer that last question. Yes, when I did a walkthrough with our crews, their first reaction to everything you just said about the waviness of the conditions of Horatio, they said, yes, we will have to repair this. So they intend to repair it. Do they know how severe it is? They're only going to know how severe it is once so what we're going to do is we're going to hand excavate every one of those cobbles and salvage all, whatever the percentage is that we can, but probably a very high percentage. And they will take a look at the road base. And if they have to rebuild the road base, they will. If the road base is still in good shape and it was just sort of a swaying of the actual cobbles, then they'll leave the road base. So we'll find out once we get in there.
Great. And I just want to confirm what other people have said. The pavers in the Gansevoort Plaza area and on Gansevoort Street do seem to be wearing extremely well at the moment. I haven't seen, they look like new. It's great.
Following up on what Zach was saying, the streets that have cement in the Belgian blocks seem to hold up so much better than the ones that are just fitted, that come loose. Is the plan to actually set them in place with some kind of concrete, or are they just planning to be set close enough together so they hold up? I just find that, and I cycle to work every day, I go through Tribeca, it is a disaster. And I know exactly what Zach is talking about as these indentations and potholes. And it really encourages people, ride on the sidewalk because you can't ride anywhere else. I don't, I go through the bumps because I'm on the traffic transportation, somebody might see me, but question is there a better method to creating Belgian block streets that they last longer and they stay together rather than separated?
I mean, I can only speak to this project's building techniques. I think what you're asking for is sort of like a larger picture NYC DOT or citywide construction technique. But I can tell you for this project, the answer is yeah, it's going to be a concrete roadbed. They use a mortar to hold them together. They're not just fitted, and they really do seem to last. At least the ones on Dumbo seem to last in Dumbo on York Street, Pearl Street, York Street.
Yes, can you please, again, can you describe what you mean by a bike stamps? I think you mentioned that word.
Yeah, that's a DOT terminology. A bike stamp is it's a small circular, I don't know, it's probably 2 feet wide, no, 1 foot wide, as big as my hands. A circle with if it's two ways with 2 arrows on it, and if one way with 1 arrow on it, and it's got a little symbol of a bicycle inside the circle, and it's what we put onto sidewalks that legalizes the presence of bicyclists on sidewalks in the path that they're representing. Like, it's only for that space.
Will they be daylighted for the night so that bike people can see it? And
I mean, the lighting of the little parklet should be enough. It is reflectorized thermoplastic, so there should be a little bit of a spark.
Okay, thank you.
And it does wear over the years.
Hey, Katie, I see you're there. If you want to, before you joined, I did mention our request to get a granite path on Morton, and I mentioned your letter that you wrote. I didn't actually read it, but we all here have Katie and I live on the same block, and we constantly have to debate east and west delivery bikes because they can't ride on our street. Or they can, but they refuse to. Anyway, anything else to add, Katie, on that?
No, this is a request that we've made since 2017, so I'd love to know if there's any timeline on it or possibility. It's really very much wanted on our street.
Kate, do you have any answers to that?
So as of now, we don't have a timeline at the moment. We'll have to go back and check with our colleagues about if they're considering these locations. We have received the resolutions over the years, and as Dan said earlier, the reasons we're doing the work at this location is because this was from a capital project in 2008 and 2012 that wasn't completed. So we're working through a backlog of these, but we are aware of the requests.
Okay, well, I spoke to Eric Botcher a few weeks ago and said, maybe we'll put it on the participatory budgeting next year, just to try to get the funds a little faster, because that would be great for us. So thank you. Thank you for keeping it on the list, and we'll push on our end to get you the money to do it.
Thank you, Katie. Any other questions from members of the public? Seeing no hands raised.
Somebody behind you.
Somebody be.
So, there you go. Please,
Question. All right.
come on over here.
Oh, and
All right,
Jeffrey,
so
we're all-
Can you say your name? So
I'm Luke Cohen, president of the area. So the reconstruction project of the Gansevoort Market Historic District completed 2021. It's gorgeous. To what extent how important to the vision of that area is it serving as a pedestrian space? Like, was that one of the objectives of the reconstruction?
We're talking about granite paths. So when we have an agenda item, it
Oh.
has to kind of relate directly to our agenda item.
Okay. All right. All right, to what extent does putting a bike path through a pedestrian space render it not a pedestrian space anymore? I guess, like, to be more direct, does putting the granite path in this space, like as proposed, specifically in the Belgian stones, like those streets, does that undermine the objectives of the renovation in the first place, of turning it into a pedestrian focused space?
No, we think that what we're doing is we're converting what is currently vehicular space and trying to make it a shared vehicular and bicycle space. And that was the intention of the reconstruction. Are we talking about the same place?
Yeah, I think that the area we're talking about actually has vehicle traffic. And so we're actually creating a safe mechanism to cycle through the
Okay, great, that makes sense.
Okay, I do see Jeffrey,
No,
we're all in.
All right, that was
Otherwise,
second.
it's a different agenda. We talk about, otherwise, it's meat packets.
Have we started I don't want to talk out on a subject that we haven't gotten to yet. Have we started talking about the pavement space on Gansevoort west of Washington Street in front of the Whitney Museum? Is that within the scope of?
Yeah, that's
Okay. So, something I'm thinking about is where the proposed bike lane will go within that street, and what effects that may have on people getting to the Whitney Museum. Is that a consideration you've been thinking about?
Let me share my screen again, and I'm going to go back to that aerial. So this, where my mouse is going back and forth is Gansevoort Street, and this is the Whitney on the north side. And this is the painted space I think you're referring to. The state included in the latest crosswalk that they built, I think it was last fall, this is what is the bicycle sort of connector. These are chevrons with dash lines. So that way the bicyclists know that they can cross here and head to the West Side Highway. So my vision was that this bicycle lane that would be installed on Gansevoort would come to the stop sign, and there's not going to be markings through this intersection because we're still working through it. But once a cyclist gets to here, they should be able to see the bicycle connection that's already there.
And the bike lane's gonna be on the south side of
Got it.
Gansworth, so it won't be in front of it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So you're saying that the bicyclists will cut across the pedestrian crossway to get to those chevron markings that are the bike lane that currently exists across. So once the bikes are cutting through where pedestrians are crossing. Got it. Thanks.
I just a point of clarification, all cyclists are able to cross on crosswalks on West Street. That is their
No, no,
cross
no,
area.
no.
Yeah.
I'm not saying cross, but
They have to
so,
get there
but they have to get there, so they're gonna cut through to get to the chevron.
They're gonna go down the street and cut over. We want to take a look at the map again.
Yes, through the
Wait.
pedestrian.
You want me to share it again?
Here across, it's not just.
No, but
You're talking about, we're talking about.
to get to the part that's marked for the bicycles.
So here's where the bicyclist will be. That blue line is. This
And-
isn't a drawing tool, so bear with me.
I know, and then they have to cut across to get to the,
They're in the street. They're not in the colored area. They have to go in the
no,
street.
I know they're in the street, but
That's a shared crossing.
it's too bad that the bike one isn't to the other side, so they don't have to cut through where the pedestrians are crossing. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then you'd have traffic interfering with pedestrians in front of the window.
But you still do because,
You're on the other side of the street.
hold on. I must be looking at this incorrectly. So,
Want me to share again?
no, can you put that back up? I'm just gonna point to something.
Okay, note that I can't see.
I know. So he's going here, and then this is where pedestrians cross, and this is the bike way.
No.
No.
No,
Yeah, that there is.
well, there is, but the crossings are shared. Yes,
It's too bad that these markings are on this side.
on the north side of the west.
So
Sure. That's a good suggestion, but I don't think that's outside of this, because that's actually state DOT and not city.
no, I'm just pointing out that, again, there's a way.
Good point.
That there's a way, there could be a way to design this, so there could be a separation from the bikes and the pedestrians. That's all. I'm saying.
Yeah, she's right.
Maybe you can talk to the state about that.
Actually,
Just kidding, just kidding.
I actually think you could probably talk to the state about that. You'd probably get farther than I would.
Any other questions?
Jeffrey Rowland has.
Jeffrey, you've been allowed to speak if you want to. ask-
Sure. Hi, I may have missed the point of it, but to me, I'm still confused. The other crosswalk where you have the ramp proposed to go through the little park, I don't exactly understand why you're not moving the traffic across further north and joining up with the crosswalk, because there's a lot of space there with that extension from 10th Avenue comes down and curves. There's no reason why the bike lane couldn't. You said earlier that you want to make cars share with bikes, not pedestrians. So it seems to me the better place to place an actual bike lane would be on the road surface there, just slightly north of that crosswalk and curving around and joining up the street. Now, maybe I missed it, but you could bring up the plan again and look at it. I'm looking at Google Maps and I see a better plan that doesn't even involve as much expense because you don't have to curb cut anything. You just have to apply more paint. And then there's the problem solved. Can you not have a bike lane parallel, abutting a crosswalk?
I'm not following, but let me try to.
Dan, I can rephrase that. Jeffrey, one of the things we're trying to do is create an alternative bike lane on 9A so that fast moving bikes can actually have a protected lane. We do not have that right now. It would be incredibly dangerous to create a unprotected bike lane on a highway that moves, that avoids the park. So I think that
I'm not suggesting creating it on the highway. I'm suggesting it on that curved portion of the road that was a 10th Avenue extension. Just on the bottom south side of that, there could be a bike lane that then would feed adjoining the crosswalk by simply painting a wider crosswalk. And it could merge and parallel the crosswalk across it and join the park that way.
I think I know. Let me share my screen and see, and you confirm this is what you're trying to say. So you're suggesting that the bicycle, I even drew a little arrow, can you tell? This arrow here would be where the bicyclists go, and then they try and come around and then
Yes,
cross.
I think that would be better, especially as some of it is already marked off as an area you're not allowed to drive on. You just convert that to a bike lane that goes diagonally across and put more stripes on the road if needed. But you have to follow the same traffic lights at the crosswalk as you would there. So why not have it cross from the, it's less obtrusive. There's no benches to obstruct. There's no, anybody that might. I understand people don't like to sit on benches and highways, but I can tell you from crossing Houston Street that they do sit in the middle of Houston Street on the bench. And so there's no reason why you would put it where there is a bench instead of where there isn't a bench.
Well, isn't it? But you still have to cross this.
Yes, you'd have to cross that.
Yeah.
You'd have to. If you're going to put a ramp, that would be a better place to put a ramp.
Right. I agree with you. I would prefer to have the ramp here. It was technically not within my project's capacity to remove these bollards. And I could not build a ramp here.
You wouldn't even have to, if it's a bike lane, they could go between the bollards. You wouldn't have to remove the bollard to build a bike lane. You just have to remove the curb.
Yeah, I mean, we looked into that last fall when we did the paint, and I'm told that it was rejected due to just technical feasibility. I will tell you though that I will try again when I go out there.
It's a much safer plan. It separates because senior citizens use benches. So when you're going for a walk and you're trying to cross to the park, it's a long stretch from where you live. You might sit on that bench, and you'll be sitting there on the bench, and the bicyclists come tearing through. When they think they can, they fly through. And so I don't think it's a good idea to have those two ideas in the same place.
So
separate them.
So we're going to, when we go out there to start building, I am going to bring the engineers and stand there and say, are you sure we can't build this ramp? And they're probably going to tell me I can't, but I'm going to ask one more time.
Thank you, Dan.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. Any other questions? Seeing none.
And I have a question, but you said this is your project, right?
I am the project manager, but most of the time I have to get coordination with a lot of people on all these sort of details.
And so you would coordinate so that they would ramp in the right place and not in the wrong place.
Correct.
You are the manager, so you do your job.
Oh, come on.
I will. That's what I plan to do.
I know, Zach, you've already spoken, and I know you're in support of it. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to comment or ask a question, and then we're going to move on to the next agenda item. So please, Zach, go ahead.
I think I remember it.
He's okay.
Sorry.
Now he's.
Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just very briefly, as somebody who bikes through this little parklet on an almost daily basis, I would be concerned that trying to move the bicycle path north, as the previous gentleman just suggested, would actually be significantly more dangerous than what's being proposed here. Right now, you can't go through that little parklet quickly on a bicycle because the roundabout simply doesn't allow it. It's a small, curvy space. You have to go slowly. If you try and cut a bike path north through going right across the pedestrian sidewalk with curb cuts on either side of like a 6-foot strip, people will bomb through that. And you're creating potential conflicts between pedestrians and bicyclists that would be significantly more serious than what currently exists. So I would really ask that people think very, very carefully before suggesting that as a supposedly safer alternative. Based on my experience, I don't think it would be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zach. And we are going to move on to our next agenda item. Thank you very much, Dan and Kate. Kate, I hope you stick with us while we listen to our next item, which is on number 2 is request to remove 12 Citi Bikes from the 80 Citi Bike station in front of 95 Morton between Washington and Greenwich Streets. And we want to elevate Michael Hudson, please. Michael Hudson, and install regulations there for no standing Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or alternatively to change the street cleaning regulations. The BTW, by the way, I don't know what that BTW means. Between, it's shortened for between Citi Bike Station and Washington Street in front of 95 Morton Street to no standing Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And to dive in more deeply, Michael Hudson, you have the floor. If you might introduce yourself and who you represent, that'd be really helpful.
Of course. My name is Michael Hudson. I'm the, Vice President of Real Estate and Security for Fanatics. Thank you all for taking the time to consider this and read the proposal and for your consideration this evening. So part of my purview is employee safety, and one of the we moved into 95 Morton Street officially in February of last year. Our employees are loving the neighborhood. We're hopefully an accretive piece to the neighborhood since we've been tenants in that building, and we have about 450 people assigned to the space. We have on average Tuesday through Thursday about 80 to 100 visitors per day from various other offices throughout the country and or external partners and consultants, etc. And this past and just one more metric just to mention is we are tracking at about 70% utilization. So we're very proudly back in the office and participating as fully as one would expect in that context. Last December, I know that the second phase of the Citi-Bike rollout in front of Morton Street was completed. We were unaware at the time, and the previous landlord had sold the building, that this was in progress. And when the second phase of that Citi-Bike installation was completed, we lost street access to, like, mid-block access to our ADA elevator. And what we've seen over the past 15 months have been several instances of either the few ADA employees and or some of the guests have raised complaints to my office on having to navigate from kind of the mid-block, not in 95 Morton, because there's no area to pull up and drop any visitors off, kind of against traffic to get to the corner of either Washington or Greenwich Street to access the sidewalk and then to our ADA elevator. That's the genesis of the ask. Obviously, we have several employees that use Citi-Bike, myself being one of them, that use it day in and day out. So we love the fact that Citi-Bike is there. And that's why we thought if there was some compromise in removing just two of the pieces of the much larger station and allowing for that corner on Morton and Washington to allow for no parking, it would allow us to have, given the volume of people coming to the building, one, obviously would make life easier, but we're mostly concerned about the ADA access and the fact that folks have had to kind of backtrack against traffic. We're conscious of creating backlog on Morton Street with 3 or 4 cars or taxis dropping off individuals at a time. So that was the basis of it. But again, thank you all for the consideration and taking the time this evening to hear me out.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to open it up to committee members first. Questions?
I guess, have you, I'm sorry if it's all in somewhere I didn't read carefully enough. Have you spoken to Citi-Bike and you know what the demand and the usage patterns is here? I mean, I mean, are they, is this a very active Citi-Bike station? If you got rid of these spaces, are there not going to be enough parking or bikes, or, did you get any feedback from Citi-Bike about this?
Not officially, no. I can tell you anecdotally that I'm there 5 days a week. We've never seen that station completely devoid of bikes. So, but that's anecdotal. I don't have an official comment from Citi-Bike, no.
I also believe that if a bike station's full, it means it's actually being used a lot. I don't know, Kate, if you have any. It does seem like there's always bikes there, but that doesn't mean that it's not used, right? It means
Right.
people get parking in it and you can't find a parking. That being said, actually, Kate, if you want to just give
Yeah.
us.
Hi there. So I don't have data about the usage of this current station. I will add, though, that when the first part of the station was originally installed in 2020, the plan was for it to always reach this length. But we had been prevented by scaffolding. So when the scaffolding came down, that was when we completed the installation. But I can certainly check if we have data for the usage in this station. But I'll say in Lower Manhattan in general, below 14th Street, DOT is working with Citi Bike and Lyft to increase capacity downtown because that's where we're seeing the usage.
Anyone else on the committee? I have a question for you, Michael. Approximately how many feet is 12 Citi Bike? You remove them, and are you talking about enough parking for like one car? Are you talking about enough parking for two cars? What is that in feet?
So right now, from where the Citi Bikes ends and the corner, there's space for 2 car parking. And then if you add the additional two 6 bike pieces, I think you'd have three cars, depending on the size. I mean, smaller cars, you might be able to fit a 4th in terms of drop off, but with larger cars, probably only 3.
So right now, the Citi Bike station is right in front of your entrance, right? You have, just so I get it correctly, and then when the Citi Bike station ends, there's actually enough space for 2 cars, but
Correct.
you're looking to potentially add enough space for another 2 cars.
Yeah, and we're not looking for parking. We you know,
Right.
drop off only.
Yeah.
You know, that would just, you know, allow us to alleviate the traffic flow of Morton Street, and you know, even a single of the pieces of the station, and Kate, you can correct my vernacular, of, and I think they're each in 6 bike tranches. So, you know, the thought was the 2, because it gets you kind of to the directly in front of the ADA elevator. If there was 1, and then the parking ability Monday to Friday would allow us to probably get 2, potentially 3 cars, and they're not idling, they're dropping off and leaving. So the ability to just kind of keep the traffic flowing, and for the instances where we do have handicapped individuals being dropped off, to make sure that they have, you know, clean line of sight to be able to get right on the curb, is really the driver here.
Katie, you had a question?
Yes, and I don't have the agenda in front of me. How are those spaces going to be identified? No parking?
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean, there is the Citi Bike station around the corner between Barrow and Christopher. I mean, there are about 4 different stations within a very quick radius for people to drop off and pick up at. So we have a lot of capacity nearby.
Parking or no standing?
You said you wanted no standing or no parking, Michael?
If it's no parking, then people with placards can use it.
Right, so it'd be no standing. That is a very good point, Mark. Thank you.
Not my realm of expertise, but I would defer to the community board as to what you would recommend.
I'd defer to Kate if we want
Yeah.
to.
No standing.
Yeah.
So for no standing would allow for pickup and drop off.
That would be great. That's all we're trying to accomplish here. Yeah. Yeah, we certainly don't want idling cars and impact to the neighborhood in a negative way. So no standing would be excellent.
And I just want to add, Katie and I live in the neighborhood. I think it's fantastic that Fanatics is there. It's been a good neighbor, and it's good to see industry come over to Far West Village. So I hope you feel welcomed.
We certainly do, and you know, we're exploring growing to other buildings nearby. You know, our neighbors in the building are our building's at capacity, and we're growing, and we're proud to be growing in New York and in this area specifically. So yeah, we feel welcome and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Great.
Any questions from the public? I don't see any other questions from the committee. Anything else come up?
Carter has.
Carter. Carter, you have the floor.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm out on the street, so I'm not going to turn my video on. But I wanted to say I'm glad to see that this is on the agenda finally. Somebody I know had sent me, particulars about this in the past, about 5 weeks ago, and I've gone by the space a couple of times, and I have to say, it's a very interesting space in that there's no way to access the building. And this is something that's really interesting with the Citi Bikes. When you put them in front of a commercial establishment, it's really difficult to walk through. And it's something that as we see different businesses moving to different parts of our community, it's something to consider as people are, coming and going. And with the ADA elevator that's there, I think this is a really good accommodation of finding a balance of what's requested for. It's not really eliminating everything, and it's having a balance. And I had reached out to Bob Ely as well, who lives right around the corner along with you guys, and he regularly uses the Citi Bikes there. And I think the issue is that there are always too many bikes in the docks is his issue, not that there aren't any bikes there. And so
Carter, that can actually mean the opposite. It means everybody's using it and they're parking there. So as Kate talked to us before, that's not an indication that they're not being used.
No, but his point is that he's saying even in the mornings that it's full. He said it's not used as much, but that's Bob's personal experience, because he's had made some complaints there as well. But it's a part of it, I think, it's just finding the balance, and having block longs doesn't, and I think that was something else Bob was saying, is they should be spread out a little bit more. And but if anybody, I don't know if anybody did a site visit before the meeting, but
walk by it every day. And
but Dan, yeah, I'm just saying it's from the street side. That's the perspective. And just when I was going by on my bike, I realized you can't walk through there, and that's the.
I don't think anybody's in disagreement with you, Carter. I think we all understand the issues, and we want to see a success of the building, and we want to provide ADA access. I'm just speaking for myself here, but I don't think that there's anybody in opposition to this that I've heard so far tonight. So thank you for your comments, Carter.
Yeah, and I'm just hopefully going forward, we can get these the requests and the presentations on the website in advance of the meeting.
Noted. Thank you.
Dan, if I may interject, I just want to clarify that curbside access in a situation like this is not an ADA requirement that DOT is required to fulfill. I just wanted to clarify that buildings, when we install a Citi Bike station, we look at the bike usage, the traffic, the parking, the utilities on the block. And oftentimes these stations are in front of apartment buildings or commercial buildings. But we are not required to provide access for every single building or every single door. And, in this case, DOT does feel that this location was properly cited. But, given the concerns raised, we were willing to consider changes to the parking regulations and the footprint of the dock.
I just want to make one comment. We have resolutions from the past that have asked to have more bike stations closer to West Street. For instance, if you go down Morton Street between Washington and West, it's all parking, Monday, Thursday, Monday, whatever it is. Tuesday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, something like that, whatever. There are opportunities closer to West Street, closer to the Greenway, where there are no Citi Bikes. That's 2 blocks away. So you might be able to take those 2 stations and actually move them closer to the Greenway.
Yeah, that's what, thank you.
And we have resolutions about this.
That's what I wanted to comment, that once you take away these stations, where are they? They're necessary, but where are you going to place them? They're not just going to disappear. They have to be someplace accessible for people to dock and to ride.
Understood. And when DOT, when we have to relocate a Citi Bike station, we often reinstall it somewhere close by. Dan, thank you for mentioning the resolutions. I can bring that back to my colleagues. I'll just say for the example of Morton Street, I believe that one is cobblestone, so we do avoid placing the stations on cobblestone for the, reasons that were discussed in the last agenda item, but yeah, definitely heard that feedback.
And nobody, Carter has his hand up.
Carter, you still have your hand up? You have another comment?
Or maybe, okay.
That might have been an old hand. He was walking.
Okay.
Any other questions from the public? Sorry, Luke?
Hey, Michael, question for you, because you seem to have some stats about visitor usage. I was wondering if there are any patterns to the volume of visitors, which is relevant because like the volume of basically the need for access to the elevator and the space. Are there any seasonal patterns? Just thinking about how to use the space most effectively over the course of the year. Citi Bike usage certainly peaks in the summer. So if visitor usage peaked in the winter or sort of the opposite, then maybe there's a seasonal solution where the more Citi Bikes are added in the summer and everyone's happy. Just an idea. So.
It's a great question. The construct of our business is we have 4 operating companies out of the 95 Morton building. So one, our collectibles business, Topps Trading Cards, for those that are familiar, is very heavy in the summer because of baseball. It's their primary license, versus our merchandising business, which is heavier in the fall and winter because of the NBA and the NFL. So we do have peaks and valleys in terms of seasonality, but because of the variation of our different businesses, we have studies, it's pretty consistent throughout the year.
Idea. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. And when are you going to change the see-through aspects of those pants, baseball pants? Who's kidding? It's just a joke. It's not your fault. We know it's not your fault. Any other questions?
I don't see any other.
I don't see any questions. So if I have a motion to move to executive or business session?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you very much. We are going to discuss the agenda item amongst us. Everyone is welcome to listen in. Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right. So item number 1. We had a couple of disagreements. It seems as though about the ramp. I'm a cyclist, Dad's a cyclist. I mean, if there's a crosswalk, you're going to try to find the shortest route. And there's also what Zach was mentioning was that it's not like a straight shot. You have to go around the circle. So it's not. I'm not opposed to saying get off your bike, but nobody watching those. I'm not opposed to putting in when you cross and you go into the area, asking for a sign that says, disembark. But I just don't think it's going to happen. But I'm not in opposition to that.
You have some enforcement and charging them a fee.
There's no enforcement.
Price is such a low, because I do go through there occasionally. And I mean, I think, the suggestion that this makes it a shorter route, because otherwise you go through it and you do bike on the path to get out the other side. So this will get the bikes off quickly. It's not a heavily, what the DOT person said is true. Like, it's not a super popular. And I think that's because it's a dead end street. So people don't even kind of know that it's there unless you live in the neighborhood. I mean, obviously not, it's not ideal, but it's.
But I make a suggestion. I make a suggestion.
Sure, but there's any better option.
I don't know. It's a better option. It's just. What if, except the fact that the bikes are going to go through there, right? We'd rather have them go through there than go on the sidewalk, right? The narrow sidewalk. They put the cut in, but they put it. I bike and walk. Okay, so I do both. So, where the sidewalk, where the walkway hits the circle, What if you have a bollard and some kind of thing saying, you know, caution, bikes riding through, or something for the pedestrians to be aware? Because if you're out with your friends and you're walking and you're talking and you just see this like trees and benches, you're not thinking that a bike's gonna come that way. Do you see what I'm saying?
But have you walked through there?
Yeah, they have crossed.
And I guess I feel like that it's not ideal that the only way for the bikes to reach the West Side Highway is on crosswalks. So I feel as if pedestrians cross onto the West Side Highway, knowing that that is the busiest bike lane in the entire country, know that they're bikes.
No, what I'm saying is, if you're on the walkway and you're about to come to the center, some kind of signage on the walkway alerting the pedestrians that there are bikes coming through there.
Yeah,
That's
shared thoroughfare. That's what I said, adding a sign that,
bikes coming.
and I don't think a bollard is a good idea. You don't want to like cut off the park more. You want to keep it open, the more open space we have, the better. But I think a sign that says,
No, but okay, something that says, when you're coming on the walkway and you're gonna hit the circle, right? And the bikes are going through, some kind of an alert saying, you know, they have it on the walkways on the West Side Highway. you
every
know?
single crossing on West Street is shared. It's like people know that you're, you know, and the cycles actually, it's their responsibility to yield to pedestrians.
Oh, they
It's the
don't,
law.
but you
I know they don't. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's yield to pedestrians, which they have up and down the Greenway. Yield to pedestrians, every block, every crossing you see.
I love
sign what you.
I really do. It make people stop.
Because you are considered a cyclist. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way to also give the pedestrians a head up, saying you're about to go into this area.
Would you be okay with that? A yield to pedestrians?
Yeah, I'm not, look, I've accepted the fact that we should put the ramp down so they don't walk the sidewalk. I'm not gonna vote against that. What I'm trying to do is, how do you make it for the pedestrians the safest? So it's right? I mean, obviously, I think the best way is to redesign the whole thing, but they can't do it. It's not in their budget, it's not their whatever. We found out people in the neighborhood came to us and told us it was a big problem, now that they had that cut, we could make that a resolution at a time, right? I'm just trying to figure out, yield to pedestrians is great, but the bikes don't do that. So we could put that there, but then we could have something for the pedestrians saying, and I know you say everybody's used to it, but there are a lot of tourists who walk there. They're coming from the Whitney, they're walking on these paths.
I don't think they use that crosswalk.
But the path,
that little path there, it's a really funky little
Yeah,
thing. If you're coming from the Whitney, you're gonna use the crosswalk north of there.
that is true, that is true.
And they just built that. So that's a new one and it's a much safer one. This one is a cycling thoroughfare in a way. But I'm all for safety.
Just some.
You know,
signage.
and you know, the ramp to me is a safety thing because I've gone over that sidewalk and I just go off of it anyway. So, because it's the shortest bit. I'm also, because I don't see a ramp there and I'm going north, I'll take that sidewalk and we really should discourage people from taking the sidewalk north and south.
So I think for safety reasons, put the little cut in I'm not,
Right, now so.
I'm not,
So in agreement, I think. Does anybody disagree with that plan? Putting yield to pedestrians.
Define yield, that's what everybody wants to know. Dismount and yield to pedestrian.
Okay.
they're not gonna do it, but not for the pedestrians.
Sign is there, maybe.
I have no problem with that either.
Or like just slow, whether or not they're yielding to pedestrians.
We'll let DOT come up with the language, but we'll get the point
And
across.
something for pedestrians too. Sign there, so.
But by and large, are we in support of the granite paths in Gus?
And
And to Zach's point, also take a look at the way you're installing them so they're not potholes like 3 months later.
Yeah.
Because that is a big issue. And I know that, you know, preservation, that these Belgian blocks are very meaningful, and they are, because I live on a street that is Belgian blocks and it's a beautiful street to live on. It's not that beautiful for Katie and I when we're dodging cycles on the sidewalk. And 3 or 4 cycles when you're making just the length of a block. It's so I'm all for promoting granite paths.
Me too.
And I'm also, and I don't think the fact that our street is Belgian block is any excuse. You just make the granite path wider. You know, it shouldn't be something that stops you. The same thing with the Citi Bikes. Just extend the granite path for that Citi Bike station. It's not rocket science to me, anyway.
Anyway, I
I like that they're making this granite wider.
Mhm.
That's an improvement.
It's so much better looking than the very first one that's on Varick, just south of Canal,
Yeah.
which is still holding up, but it's cracked because it was very thin. It seems like the mechanism they were showing is much more advanced.
I'd like us to clarify. You know, I just started in with the one issue I had. I think it's great that they're finishing this. We should give them a round of applause for finishing this project and they're gone. But, you know, I mean, it can be a positive, you know, and then we just talk about this one. That's all. I didn't, you know.
Okay, I'm all for that. Is there anything else that came out about the Granite Pass in the area? I didn't, you know, it is a pedestrian area, but it's that area we're not talking about. We're talking about the cycle areas. We're just making it more cycle friendly. So, and we're, you know, making it short. So that sounds good. So you want to move on to the next?
Hey, Dan, I had my hand up. I just wanted to make a comment on that.
We're in business section. I thought I saw an email saying that committee
Oh,
members.
yeah, you're wrong. All the board members can comment during the business session. I just want to point out that, you know, we really need to include in this resolution that the inclusion of this ramp is encouraging cyclists to ride on a crosswalk through a park, and it is illegal for bicyclists to ride in crosswalks. And the larger problem with the connection to Hudson River Park and the bikeway is that nobody is properly planned to make safe crossings. And that is something that could be installed. And I understand why this is being presented, but I think that we should keep the larger messaging of that as a part of what we're talking about going forward, because I find that I constantly have to ride in the crosswalk to get to the park. And that situation should be, they should be starting to work on plans around that. It's fascinating because if you know about this crosswalk, this is a comfortable way to cross in and out of the park. It's a nice way to ride. Riding on Horatio is great. Coming across Jane is great. But there should be a dedicated crossing there for bikes as well, along with many other parts of the park. It's not hard to do, but that should be a part of this conversation here, because we're just encouraging completely, you know, breaking all the rules here.
All right, you know, Carter, it's a very good point. I appreciate it. I think I get your point, and we'll talk about it amongst the committee members. Thank you. So I do agree that there should be, that doesn't exist right now, but having a separated crosswalk for pedestrians and a cyclist in the same area is not such a big heavy lift, and that's something that I have no problem adding to the resolution.
Yeah, that, you know, we approved this project, but we resolved in the future that they should look to address this. Yeah, it's not ideal for anybody now.
Okay, sounds good.
With the conditions that we discussed, the signage.
Well, it's actually up and down West Street. It's like separate cycles from pedestrians on crosswalks. There's so many problems with the Greenway and actually even entering and exiting and speeding bikes. I mean, it's just one of the 100 problems. You know, so that's why this 9A having its own dedicated fast moving cycle, hopefully more people will use that. And then the smaller kids and the families and the tourists who are going slow can use the pedal only non-electric areas in the Greenway. But it's on discussion level. I think just, I'm happy adding Carter's thoughts to the question. If everybody's okay with that.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. That makes sense.
Yep.
Agree with that.
All right, going on to let's go on to Fanatics at 95 Morton Street. And it is it's a massive 80 bike, it's taken up. It's very hard. You can't even, it's like Carter's saying, you can't really walk on that sidewalk. It's just, you just seem claustrophobic to in. It makes sense to me to take away a few bikes and recommend that we place them elsewhere.
Yes.
West, because there's more north and there's more east, but there's nothing west. Everybody's in agreement with that.
Yes. But
And even though it's not ADA necessary to do it,
but it's important.
it's important.
I think, I mean, you know, putting a phrase in that's saying, yes, but although the DOT isn't, that's not a part of their mandate, this is something we can keep in mind at all times, you know. Accessibility is really.
Well, they make, you know, the corners, that's why obviously they have curb cuts on the corner, you know,
Right.
somebody in a wheelchair could enter on the corner. but for convenience.
It's very hard.
For such a large building with a growing business, which is the only one that's recognizable in that area, I think that we are good neighbors and say, yeah, this is gonna help you grow your business.
But also it's the right thing to do.
City Bikes another place.
Right, that's right. So you're gonna have 80 in the area, but we might move 12 of them.
Right.
So now they're gonna have 68 and the other 12 are gonna go elsewhere. And maybe even add more. Good?
Yes.
I think, I think I have clear sense. I will write this up and I'll pass it around to everyone and, feel free to edit, revise, add. I tend to write more simply than Shirley. I don't go into so much detail. So excuse me if I lost some details, but feel free to add them. If all are in favor, are we in favor of adjourning the
Yes.
meeting? Sure, of course.
Question, we'll be out of here by 8. That whole thing, the whole thing that I pointed out about why is the bike lane on this side when it could be on the north side, so that's a state road, right? So can we write resolutions about that, about rethinking moving that painted bike lane to the north, like making it, now that you're gonna have the granite bikes being able to.
Sorry, I'm not picturing it. I lost the train, but
Crosswalk there actually does have a designated bike, but it's in the south side crosswalk.
Instead of the north side.
We're on the north side, the bikes.
what streets are we talking about exactly? It's race.
Yeah, but
Oh, Don, Victoria?
when I,
Oh, right, what you said. Yes, absolutely. I have it in my notes.
okay, but I'm wondering if at another meeting, do we make it actually its own resolution? Do we do something about that?
I think we mentioned it in this resolution and it actually goes with what Carter was saying, which is like separating it
Yeah.
because it's not as heavily trafficked as one north, but
Yeah.
it is an indication, but it is state. They can't, this department can't touch it.
Right.
They
so-
do it together, like they're in charge of maintenance in New York City, but the directive has to come from.
But do our resolutions only have to, no, the state has come.
No, I think it connects it. I think we could put in our resolution.
Yeah.
I think we should say that we should consider adding on the northern side of that crosswalk to be dedicated.
Separate, gotta change the paint.
Yeah.
That's all they gotta do.
Yep.
I know.
You think it would be.
That's I know, we're not asking for a capital improvement. Okay, that was it, sorry.
Genuine.
Oh, thanks. Mark,
Meeting.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, Discussion, great. All right, thank you. Go next.
Good night. Good night.
Oh, Nick's, of course.
Yeah, I tell this is not, this particular little part doesn't have a problem. When there is a problem, it's the Brooklyn Bridge. If you want to see.
Oh, my bridge.
Conflicts between pedestrian, cyclists,
And vendors.
and vendors, you come off and the bikes are in the pedestrian path, because that's,
Thank you.
because that's the only way you can go, but then there's an ice cream truck and,
The whole thing is,
that's.
Everybody should write a note, Shirley, wishing her
yeah,
well.
I guess.
Marcella, this may or may not be my last meeting as a full board member, so I get 2 months thereafter, so you might be, depending on what Mark Dilla tells me, you might be the next in line, so. Stay on top of your game.
All right, I'll.
That's what I'm doing. I have no
You're gonna
problem.
let me know that when I go to public members.
I love it.
Yes, my kids take my free.
Theory, they say they were gonna get them the end of this week, which is. So,
We'll find out. But I will, I think it's kind of cool. I'll write a resolution.
I'm gonna think everybody else? Or were there any other board members?
There was, well, Carter was on the line.
Oh, and Katie.
Katie was very vocal.